Welcome to the BLTnT podcast. I'm your host, Matt Loria, serving up real stories of business, life, technology, and transformations. You'll hear from interesting people about big changes from career shifts to life-altering decisions and the innovations that help make it all happen. It's about sharing those light bulb moments, pivot points, challenges overcome, and the journeys that inspire us to think differently. If you're on the lookout for insights to propel you forward, stories that resonate, or just a bit of inspiration on your next BLTnT move, you're in the right place. Let's dig in. Okay, welcome to our most current episode of the BLTnT podcast. I'm Matt Loria, and I am here with Mary Buchzeiger, a.k.a. Mary Buck.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with me. Mary is the CEO of Lucerne International, and I'll let Mary kind of give a quick and dirty of what that all means.
Lucerne International, we do cast, forged, and machined components assemblies for automotive and commercial vehicle group.
Awesome. All stuff that I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
So Mary and I met probably, 8 or so years ago?
I have no idea. It was a while back.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And always respected each other, always have a great time when we see each other. I love her husband, Scott, very much too. So great people, and super excited to have you with us.
Thanks.
Especially because you really meet the BLTnT, which is Business, Life, Technology, and Transformations. And transformations are your jam.
Whether I like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Some self-imposed, some nature-imposed, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when we were talking the other day, you started your story back at about third grade. And don't worry, it doesn't take 40 years to get there, because Mary's only 40.
Yeah.
And
I'm holding at 40 for the last decade. It's lovely.
I like it. So start us off a little bit with your story, because I think everybody would love to hear the stories that I've heard of just kind of, how you grew up in that, that business-oriented family, and some of the zigs and zags. And then the goal that I'd really like to get to, too, is to talk about your new factory, when we kind of catch up to current day, because you're doing some amazing stuff today.
Yeah, it is exciting. We do have a lot of great things going on. So
awesome.
I've been in this industry for as long as I could walk and talk. So I always like to say that most kids got to go to summer camp, but I got to go to work camp. That was my life. I know. My dad quit General Motors when I was in the third grade. And he started his own company. He was head of purchasing and decided to go off and do the sales rep thing. Mm-hmm. So my parents really couldn't afford childcare. So in the summer, I got woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning, got to go to the office, make the coffee, and file papers and read my books, which was fun. Fast forward, I was driving a high-low.
Did they pay you, by the way?
Let's see, probably like in French toast in the morning on the way to. I have this vivid memory. I don't know. It's just the most random things you remember. It was when Wendy's had breakfast, and my mom and I would always go through the drive-thru at Wendy's, and she would get me these sweet French toast sticks. That's like one of my earliest memories of going to work.
That's great. Yeah, I remember I made $3 an hour when I was, I think 14 at my dad's boat store. Yeah, for the first year I had to work for free.
Yeah,
but then when I proved myself, I got up to $3.
Yeah, so as I got older, they paid me for sure. Good. So
did you ever over $3?
I don't know. I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I don't. But I was driving a high-low before I could even drive a car. My dad did some simple assembly work, just a whole bunch of random things over the years. Mm-hmm. I ran a second shift after cheerleading practice, which was fun, of my peers, and I did get paid then. Okay. I know that we got paid in pizza, but I think we also got some dollar bills at the end of it. Yeah.
Are you still friends with any of those people?
Oh gosh.
Or were you a tough boss back then?
Yeah, no. I mean, I haven't talked to them since high school, so I'm sure they're probably still in my Facebook somewhere that I could find them.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's it, right? So. Decided to go to college. I went to GMI engineering school, which I think is now Kettering University. Had a little bit of fun there. Decided to transfer to, LCC, because I was going to go to Michigan State, and then I ended up working. I just really enjoyed work. It took me 10 years to get my undergrad, which was a whole lot of fun along the way. But when I moved to East Lansing, I started my own marketing business. It was right when desktop publishing came out. And I was a bartender for the bar, Rick's in East Lansing. And I started my own desktop publishing marketing firm where I would do all the advertisements for all the local bars. And then I hired a bunch of students to go hang flyers up. Of course, I was working as a bartender, and then I was a nanny for the owner of the bar and his wife.
Rick?
Yeah, no, close though, Joe. So I really just worked, the whole time, which was great. I moved back here, in 1998. And went to school at Lawrence Tech.
Okay.
And came back to work actually for my dad.
Okay.
In 98.
Okay.
So I finally graduated, I think, in 2008. It was 8 years, so maybe not 10.
That's
8
right.
years later.
It took me 5, but I always, like I told you, I would have easily taken 10 if my friend Trisha didn't carry me through. So
didn't stab you a little and get you going. Yeah.
No, literally
fun.
carry me. It wasn't just prodding.
I love it.
She just put it on a platter for me.
So that's kind of where I came back to work in 98 and worked through every facet of the job.
What was the company doing around that time?
So it was all domestic supply chain management.
Okay.
So we'd have programs where contract manufacturing, a lot of what we do now, but it would be all domestic. So I remember we used to make all the Targa frames, so the roof frames for the Corvettes. And they were magnesium cast. So we would have them cast by a supplier in Chicago. We had to buy these little, some little stamped assembly nuts, and then we would get them. So we'd cast them in Chicago, we'd get them E-coated locally, and then we'd bring them back in-house and we'd do the assembly and then, of course, package them and ship them just in time to our customers. So a lot of programs like that, but all domestic.
Got it.
Then in 2003, my dad had another company with a partner. It was a minority certified company, and I was watching a lot of our work go offshore at that time. And I said, hey, Dad, I've got some ideas. I think it would be great if we went offshore. And my dad said, yeah, kid, go ahead, give it a shot. Within a couple of years, my company was twice the size of his, which was fun. And my dad retired in 2008, so I took over Lucerne. I bought him out and had my other company, Sure Solutions.
Okay.
Combined the two, rebranded, I think, in 2014. Bought out the partner of the other company eventually. And as they say, and that's where we are today.
All right.
That's what brings us here.
Wild. So let's mix in some of the personal life here. Met Scotty in 02-ish time frame?
Great question.
Yeah?
Something like that. Yeah, it sounds about right.
I talked to him to
02,
verify
03.
that. No, somewhere in that area.
He's,
right?
you know what? He knows how long we've been married. He knows when our anniversary is. Usually I defer to him. I know. Sounds right, though.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Very thoughtful. So, and how did you meet? How'd you meet your husband?
Oh, it's a really romantic story. We met at a bar in Detroit. We just, we had some mutual friends introduce us. He had just retired. He was a professional boxer, as you know. And he had just retired. And
What was his boxing name?
Scotty Buck.
Scotty Buck?
Yeah.
Okay, but he had something on his...
Oh, I don't know. I think they used to call him, because he's Jewish, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of Farmington Hills, this little kid from the suburbs. They were calling him the Bagel Bomber and a couple other
there's
things.
something else. I can't remember what it is. Well, we'll have to ask him
Yeah,
when he
we'll have
comes
to ask him.
and joins us.
So we had some mutual friends. I was actually there's I have an entrepreneurial bug. I can't help myself. So when I moved back and was working here, I was just, I still loved health and fitness because I've always been I was in martial arts. I was an amateur boxer. I've just always loved that space. So I bought a kickboxing gym.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where was that?
It was in West Bloomfield.
Okay.
Inside Powerhouse Gym.
Oh, okay.
But he was, of course, working for one of my competitors. So we met at a bar, and within, I think, 8 to 10 weeks, he was working for me. It didn't take long.
And he he called your relationship, right? I mean, he's the one who said this is going to happen.
He's psychotic. Yeah, I think I shared with you. It was, we were dating for maybe I don't know, not very long. And
Three
dating,
3 or 4 days.
dating, no, okay, maybe a little longer than that. It was like a few months. And dating, I used loosely because I was definitely still seeing other people. And he showed up one day to dinner and showed me a tattoo he had gotten, and it was my name on his arm. And I was like, I sure hope your mom's name is Mary because you're crazy. But he said, when you know, you know. And I guess he was right, because here we are, 20 plus years later and 3 kids. And
That's amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So you do kind of like, the waves carry you a little bit too. So for as determined as you are, the waves kind of, you're along for the ride in some interesting ways, I feel like.
I don't fight it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of go with it. I go with what life throws my way. So
That's great.
No sense in fighting it.
So you also, you were telling me, okay, so you ended up buying out your dad. Your company was a little bit bigger than his, or twice the size of his at the time, but you kind of had some wild rides in the automotive world of the '08 and then personal stuff. I mean, it was just kind of a crazy time for you. So it's not been all just like
It's
up
all
and to the
sunshine
right
and rainbows,
on the
Matt.
graph, yeah.
I mean, come on, it's automotive. Sunshine and rainbows. No, listen, any industry is a struggle. And I mean, you're a business owner. Any business is a struggle. If anybody says it's easy, they're absolutely
That's why we're
lying.
only on the second floor. I
know,
didn't
right?
want to be up any higher for all the opportunities to
You
jump.
just break a leg,
Yeah.
that's all. I know, just maim yourself a little. No, we went through some hard times. I mean, 2008, when the economic downturn in the automotive industry was getting bailed out, it was pure craziness. My dad, unfortunately, my mom had just passed away, and my dad was like, I'm done. He was he wanted to retire, and he was out. Great time to take over the business. I was pregnant with my second child. Yeah, it was my second child.
Okay.
And, the automotive industry basically shut down for 3-4 months, which was insane. So I made the tough decision to just stop taking a salary, shut the doors, and we unfortunately went through personal bankruptcy to save my business. Thank God for Scott and his, he was still working as a personal trainer. We let our house go. We moved in with my dad. So I'd already had a baby. And then my daughter, actually, we moved in after my daughter was born. So my daughter is like, I don't know, a few months old. And we moved in with my father. And I'm sure he loved that. God bless him.
Wow. He probably did love it.
Well, I'm sure he didn't love being woken up by a baby at, all hours of the night. But it was some crazy times. Yeah, that was a tough patch in 2008. We got through it, came out stronger than ever. And then went through a few more rides here and there.
One thing you had mentioned to me during that time was that you had a number of employees kind of hang with you.
Yeah, a few, absolutely. In 2008, I mean, we didn't let anybody go. I tried to keep people on bare minimum salaries or, help out where I could. A few people collected unemployment, but everybody came back after the fact.
Great.
So it was good. We were much smaller then, a little more agile, I would say. So we were able to do that.
That's one of the things that gets scarier as you get bigger is, so much of a payroll, so much of responsibilities of the buildings and, you name it.
More overhead, more fixed expenses, things like that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's hard to be scrappy.
Exactly.
And around that time, that's when you kind of joined a peer-to-peer group. I know that we know each other from there. Could it have been that we've known each other since 2010? Could it be?
Probably. Yeah. Sounds about right.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's nuts, yeah. So, Vistage.
Yep.
Joined Vistage. That was a great experience. So, Richard Best, did you know Richard? Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's the best.
He's the best. He was the CEO of GK and Driveline here, and he had just retired and joined Vistage. Man, you couldn't ask for a better mentor, a better chair,
especially in the
for
world
me.
that you live in.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, being in automotive, and he understood the language. He got the issues that we were dealing with. So I honestly, I've been really fortunate to have great role models in my life. But he was probably one of the mentors in my life that made the biggest impact on me and on my business. And the way that I looked at things. Right. I feel like Vistage opens up your mind to... you have that peer network, and they say it's lonely at the top, right? And it really is because you don't have anybody else that you can vent to. You can't do it to your employees. You can't really go to your family. They don't understand. So being able to share issues and common issues. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. When you're running a business, you share a lot of the same issues.
Sure. But having that mentor too, though. That
oh my gosh, that one-on-one.
Knowing the business and I mean that's.
He was he took on like almost like a fatherly role to me too. It was really, it was great because you could just tell he was passionate about it and he cared.
Sure.
And he would hold me accountable.
Is he still with us?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him in probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay. I've heard his name floating around.
I'm going to need to reach out and find out.
Both of us should do that. Yeah. But, so then you were starting to split some responsibilities with Scott, or Scott actually not just split responsibilities. Scott took over in 2011-ish.
My son was a year old. So, it was crazy times. We've definitely been up and down. So, he was working full-time. He had his own business, personal training. And, of course, I was working full-time. And 2 kids, 3 now at this point. We just had Cody, our 3rd child. And we had 2 nannies. So one would come over in the morning and take them to daycare and school. And then another would come over in the afternoon and she would do laundry, clean the house. Then she'd go pick up the kids and bring them home. And then, of course, Scott and I would get home that night, in the evening. And it was really unfortunate. We had this wonderful, beautiful soul who was with us for well over, I think, like a year, because she was with us from the time Cody was born. And she was only 26 years old, but unfortunately she had a pulmonary embolism and passed away. And it was heart-wrenching. It was really awful because, unfortunately, she was in our home that afternoon. My husband came home, found her, called the police, whatever. It was this horrible thing that our family went through. We still miss her dearly to this day. Like I said, she was just this beautiful, bright soul. But it also made my husband realize, he just stepped back and he said, you know what? Why are we even doing this? Why are other people raising our children? Because basically what he was making was just going to pay for nannies. So he stepped up and said, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to stay home and I'm going to do this.
Wow. Did he know what he was getting into?
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Oh, boy.
I don't think either of us knew what we were getting in. Nobody does.
Wow.
I mean, you've got kids.
When my wife leaves for a day, I start to melt down.
Right?
Yeah.
I remember when the kids were little, we went up north for a weekend. And, from early on, I travel a lot for business. Like prior to COVID, I probably traveled 75% of the time. So I was not there when my kids were little, not very much. It was so bad that my kids would run up to me and, they'd want something and they'd go, Daddy, Daddy. And Mommy, Mommy.
Oh.
And it used to be the opposite. Kids would run up and go, Mommy, Daddy. It was crazy. But I remember we were up north one weekend and we just went away for the weekend and he went to the grocery store, which was a half hour away. And I'm getting the kids. And by the time he got home, like an hour later, I'm in tears. And I'm like, I don't know how you do this every day. It's hard when the kids are little.
Did they have you tied to a chair?
Oh my God, no! But I was like in a corner shaking.
Oh yeah, Nadine was out of town the other day, and one of our little guys he was having some stomach problems, and I was homesick, and he came to in my bedroom, and he's like, I'm gonna be sick again. And he's sick, and he threw up blood.
Oh,
I had no idea what to do, so I had to call the pediatrician, and I'm trying to decide: do I call my wife? Do I not call my wife?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till she gets home.
If I've had enough.
Yeah, it's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, nobody gives you a parenting book, right?
No.
Nobody can prepare you for what being a parent is like.
So the stay-at-home parent has my
immense
respect.
He's got a much harder job than I do. I can promise you that.
I would agree. My one buddy used to say, I go to work to rest.
Right?
It's a lot easier at work.
Seriously.
So in just kind of walking through the timeline here a little bit, was it Richard that encouraged you, or somebody that encouraged you to get the women's certification for the business, or did you do it on your own? Did you?
I don't. I think not sure who encouraged us, but we did decide to go after that WB certification. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Which is a nice certification to have. In automotive, I would say that it opens up doors, maybe. And
You're right. They're not just handing you a contract because you have it.
No. I mean, if I'm next to my competitor and all things are equal, apples to apples, then maybe I'll get the contract, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
So, but it's helpful to open up doors, especially in automotive. There's diversity divisions that will kind of be your internal advocate that will bring you in and say, hey, do you know them? And they try to get business for you. So it's almost like having teams of salespeople out there for you. Being your
I mean, obviously, for anybody who's sold into large enterprise, I mean, that's a whole life course in itself, is knowing who the people are, knowing how things operate. I mean, when changes occur, I mean, it's just it's wild, and it's and for me, I left the world of enterprise IT, and so much of that knowledge just goes. It's just poof. It doesn't do me any good right now, right? To know the corporate structure at Stellantis, But anyway, when did you move to China? There was a time that. Oh, actually, I remember now from one of the things we talked about. That was like about the craziest time as well, because you had
it seems like every 10 years it's nuts. Like hopefully
I'm not going to be anywhere. I'm not going to be anywhere near you in 3 years.
Seriously, I'm going to move to a deserted island. 2018 was rough. Unfortunately, my father had just passed away. We historically, I took my business offshore, so we do a lot of offshore manufacturing through our partnerships, and a big chunk of my business then and still now in 2018 was in China. And if you remember, the Trump tariffs took effect in 2018. Yep. So my dad passed away, right? Actually, it was awful. I testified at the trade somewhere at one of the trade reps, and I testified. I did an interview with the Wall Street Journal. I got on the airplane. It was like this crazy emotional day. I landed, and my husband called me when I landed in Detroit and said, your dad just died.
Oh.
So it was insane. It was just one of these, whirlwind. I don't know. 2018 was a whirlwind. So my father passed away. We were still fighting the tariffs. I was actually victorious for the first few rounds of the tariffs, and I was able to get our HTS codes removed.
So let's back up and kind of explain that in a little bit more detail. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the parts that you were selling and manufacturing overseas were being hit. They were put into a class of goods that was being hit with some pretty enormous tariffs.
Historically, it's 2.5% on goods that you bring in for these kind of parts. They're body structural systems, hinge systems, and there was an additional 25% tariff slapped on top. So if you know anything about automotive, you can't just walk into your customer and go, I need 25% more.
Right. And my guess is that the margins wouldn't just cover that.
Did you see my Lamborghini?
I did.
And my matching Ferrari?
I did. Yeah. How'd you drive 2 cars?
I know. I mean, the Matchbox ones that I brought in with me because that's all I could afford. No, there's no margins. I mean, automotive's already pretty paper thin.
Yeah.
So that's well over and above any margins we would have in the
So
program.
then you how did you get on that track to kind of go fight it? I mean, where do you even get started with that? How did that all work out?
I'm pretty fortunate. I've got a great network in Detroit. First call was I sit on a board from Mish Auto. So I called up Glenn Stevens and said, who's the head of Mish Auto, and said, hey, I need some help. And immediately we kind of put this war room together in our conference room, had my whole executive team in, and within hours after the tariffs were announced, we had this path of who to talk to, where to go. I think it was pivotal point was that we hired a PR agency, Truscott Rossman.
Okay.
And Ron Fournier, he had just retired from Cranes. He was the editor for Cranes.
Okay.
And I was his first client, which was awesome. And he has got a ton of experience in DC. So he just had this amazing background. So we really went on this kind of tirade in the public eye to win the tariffs, if you will, create our story and get the word out about, hey, this isn't going to work. So that was,
Do you think
we had
that
a
the
whole
tariff
payoff.
was it just kind of ill planned, the whole tariff piece, where it was like, hey, we're not realizing that it's going to impact U.S. based businesses? Is that
I mean, the whole tariff thing is still ill planned, if
Okay.
you ask me. I agree that China is absolutely eating our lunch. We have to do something. We have to be more competitive.
sure?
Did those tariffs maybe spark something? Possibly, but I see firsthand that it sparked more, okay, let's get out of China and go to Thailand. Let's go to Vietnam. Now, COVID really put that kink in the supply chains and said, whoa, look at all this risk in supply chains.
Sure.
I think that's what drove more of the localization than tariffs.
Okay.
What people don't understand about tariffs and still don't understand today is when you've got one of our leaders sitting, in front of a TV saying, tariffs are the best thing ever. We've collected billions of dollars from Chinese companies. I'm sorry, but who have you collected those from? Because I know the tariffs I pay came out of my company, who my customer had to pay, and their customer had to pay, and their customer had to pay. At the end of the day, it's the U.S. consumer that pays those. Chinese companies aren't going to pay more to get their goods here.
Yeah,
They're going to charge you more for their
Right.
goods.
It could work if you had adequate replacement goods made here,
Yes.
but if that's
Yes.
not the case, then it just goes straight through.
Right. So, rebuilding the North American supply chain, 100% important. Have we shipped it all offshore over the last 30 years? Yes. Right. Everybody has.
Sure.
So rebuilding the supply chain is important. Is tariffs the answer for it? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, it is just going to drive up inflation more. It's going to drive up the cost of all of the consumer goods. And that's, quite frankly, what it did in 2018. It's going to continue to do so today.
Interesting to hear that from the perspective of somebody who's actually.
I mean, I'm
bringing
building a
these
plant
goods in.
here,
Yeah.
right? Now, granted, we're building a plant here. We're rebuilding the North American supply chain. But if those tariffs were to go away, it would definitely make us uncompetitive. So I'm not completely against tariffs. It's just that the continuing to rely on that as a strategy will make us weaker.
Well, and I think your point is that it might be part of the puzzle, but it's not the panacea. It's not the cure-all.
Exactly.
And so we have to just be aware of that.
I mean, the average cost of a car right now, it's insane. I just sat through, somebody's presentation.
Yeah, what's the number?
But it was like pre-COVID, it was on this line, and this, this is the line it's on now, which is a huge difference. The average cost of a vehicle is $45,000.
Wow.
I paid $50,000 for my first house.
Right.
My first house I bought for $50,000,
Wow.
and a car is $45,000.
Wild.
It's complete insanity.
Wild.
And you can't tell me that tariffs aren't a big part of that.
Yeah, it has to play in. Yep.
I mean, COVID and supply chains and all the other stuff also has a big factor. It would be interesting to see where we'd be had it not been for COVID.
Yeah, right. If we had the crystal
But we don't
ball to be
have
able
that.
to see, we don't have
so,
that.
Yeah.
In 2018, not only did
I wanted to skip that over.
No,
It was a rough year.
we got to talk about it a little bit about this, because this is the piece where I think people can really appreciate your commitment and your guts, and and Scott and your whole family's commitment as well. I mean, I know the kids were a little bit younger, so they didn't have too much choice, but you moved the family to China.
He did.
In 2018.
Yeah, so my dad passed away.
When I got
was
that call, I
fighting
was
tariffs,
like,
then moved my kids to
I think
China.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, China.
I thought maybe Chinatown? No, China. Okay.
That country across the world.
Yep.
Yeah,
Why
well,
the hell would you want to do that?
you know what? My business was growing. We were launching we were just launching some major programs, and I saw an opportunity and a path forward. And I said, you know what? I need to spend time building the business on this side of the ocean. I had just hired an incredible COO who is still with me today. So I said, why not? Let's give my kids this experience. I've got quite a few expat friends. One girlfriend in particular, she convinced me. We were out to dinner one night in Shanghai, and she convinced me. And I called home that night. Might have had a couple drinks, but I called home that night, and I told Scott, I'm like, we're moving to China. And he said, all right, let's do it. I mean, that's really how the conversation went.
That's so great.
So, It was an amazing experience, though. My kids really, it's such a safe environment there.
Okay. That's an interesting word. I wouldn't have expected that word.
I mean, communism works in that case. Right? Other cases
We
not
won't
so
use
much.
We won't
right?
use that as the major clip that comes out of this is that communism works.
Absolutely not. But
Okay.
when it comes to safety, I mean, I've never felt better about, the safety of my children.
Sure.
So my son, I think, was in 2nd grade. My daughter was in 3rd, and my oldest was in 8th grade.
Okay.
Or 3rd, 4th, and 8th, something like that. I don't know. Scott would probably know. Ask him. But we lived like maybe 3 or 4 blocks from school. They went to Shanghai American School.
Okay.
They would walk out of the house. They would walk to school. My daughter had a little scooter she'd ride. My daughter would ride her bike. My 8-year-old, 9-year-old daughter would ride her bike to school. And then after school, there was like this shopping complex. So there was food and whatever. There was this animal rescue center. And God, I want to say Shane was 8, 9. I think she was probably 9 years old. She was 9. She would go after school on her own, this little 9-year-old, and go volunteer at this animal rescue shelter and walk dogs. But the thing is, the women there couldn't even speak English. So she had her little phone, and she would translate on her phone, and she'd talk to the women, and they'd tell her what to do at 9 years old.
Wow.
I mean, talk about like this level of just crazy independence and learning.
Yep.
And
an experience you just couldn't
gosh.
buy that anywhere.
And you ask my kids now, and they would, if China were the same as it was then, which it's not, post-COVID, it's a different story, but they would move back there in a heartbeat. And Scott, too. Of course, Scott had a driver. He had an ayi, which means auntie in Chinese, and she came over every day and cleaned the house. She cooked for the kids.
Oh, wow.
She did. Scott didn't have a job in China. He didn't drive anywhere. He didn't have to do anything.
Wow.
So he was really loving that expat life there.
Sure.
And they really enjoyed it. It was a good time.
So let's take a little detour here. The difference between China 2018 and the China today. What are some of the highlights that you'd kind of point out to somebody who lived there, from the perspective of somebody who lived there? Right. I mean, all we are as consumers of the news. Here.
Right.
I would know nothing about.
I mean, the expat community, especially in Shanghai, the expat community there was really strong. There was a lot of expats in China, in all different, all different industries. So quite a few in automotive, but all over the place. A lot of expats, and it was a very international city.
Okay.
Not to say it's not still today, but there was Western restaurants. What are they called? Lo Wai Tan, foreigner streets. And, there was certain disbursements of all these little foreigner areas with all these Western restaurants, and which was great. It was just this really cool vibe. Post-COVID, I mean, you know what China went through with the lockdowns. You've seen it, I'm sure, all over the news.
Oh, yeah.
They were pretty strict. That's why when I said communism works until it doesn't, right? I mean, they had people on lockdown. You didn't have a choice. If they caught you on camera walking by somebody who was later diagnosed with COVID, then you'd be locked down wherever you were in a hotel room for 2 weeks, if that's what it was. They'd lock down your whole family. I mean, it was insane. So knowing firsthand some people that went through this.
And it didn't help either what they did it?
I mean, I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
Who knows? But taking away people's freedoms at that level was crazy.
Pretty insane.
So fast forward, a lot of the expat population moved out.
Okay.
COVID is obviously
because you would have been under the same rules then, too.
Oh, yeah. Thank God we were out.
Yeah.
COVID's obviously changed how everybody works, right? So I just don't know if the expat population is still going to be, grow to as big as it once was. But, a lot of the restaurants that I used to love and frequent, they're closed down now. I remember right when the restrictions got lifted, I went just a couple months after.
Okay.
And walking down the street in Shanghai, it was so international, you'd see everybody, but from every nationality. And after COVID, I remember walking down the street and I was like, I stick out like a sore thumb because people were staring at me because they hadn't seen foreigners in so long.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
Wow. This episode of the BLTnT podcast is sponsored by Auxium, business IT and cybersecurity designed to outsmart chaos. And powered by Juniper Networks. Automate your network with Juniper Networks and the Mist AI platform, the world's first AI-driven wired and wireless network. Now let's get back on. We'll get back on the timeline trail here.
I don't
We'll
wanna
get out of
talk about
18
it.
here real soon. I
Please.
promise. I swear.
It was a rough year
but
for
I
us.
think everybody needs to hear this because,
Yeah.
I think people see you in the outside world and they just think, oh, successful person. And
Yeah.
I think you'd have to give the color behind it that says, no, highly earned.
Yeah.
I earned every bit of this. So while you were there, you had some issues with business.
With business, yeah. One of my,
And I don't know what you can say about that.
I mean, I could say anything I want, but I prefer not to dredge things
Okay,
up.
so let's
We'll
just
take the high road.
Let's take the high road.
Yeah.
Say it as nicely as you can.
Well, so I had just moved my family to China, and right as I moved my family there, we were having some issues with one of our largest customers.
Mm-hmm.
They were behaving just poorly, not paying us on time, playing some games, and we were less than a year into major launches worth, I don't know, the better part of about $45 million.
Mm-hmm.
I literally moved my family to China in 3 days after we moved there. I was like, I gotta go. I just picked up and left my poor family, who none of them have ever even been to China. I don't think my kids had ever been out of the country. They're starting a new school. They can't speak the language. I was like, okay, bye. I'll be back. Which, and I left and I came back, I think, like a week and a half later. We ended up only living there for 6 months because I had to bring my family back kind of in a firestorm, which I'll get to. But in the 6 months that they lived there, I only saw my family for 18 days.
Wow.
Not in a row. It was a random.
Total of
I'd
18.
pop in, right? I'd be like, "Hi, I'm back for
Are some
2
of those
days."
half days counted as?
Yeah, and I mean, and even when I was there, I wasn't there. I was at my office in Shanghai. I was working, so that was a rough patch. I mean, my poor husband literally he was like that picture of Atlas with a world on his shoulders,
Wow.
right? Trying to keep the family happy and together and navigate this new country. So we had a customer start behaving very poorly. We went through some legal battles. Less than a year, again, why I had to move my family back. It was November 9th, 2018. I'll never forget the day. I got an email. It was a Friday at 5:30 p.m. from a gentleman who was the head of purchasing, just canceling all of our contracts. Less than a year into launch. Again, these are life of program contracts that are supposed to last 7 years or more.
And for those who don't understand, in automotive, you're putting all the costs in
Upfront.
and maybe making money later down the road.
You recover
2 years, maybe.
You start to recover usually in year 2. So we had a lot of upfront loaded costs. I mean, just moving my family to China, all of that, right? There's just a lot of moving pieces because we had life of program contracts. And they didn't cut our contracts for for not supplying, lack of quality, whatever. Everything, what we were doing was
You were doing
okay.
the right stuff.
Yeah, unbeknownst to us, they were going through some financial issues, and their decision was just to try to go in and screw their suppliers, for lack of better words. So not only did they cut my contracts, they said, the accounts payable that we have for you, we're not paying
that either.
We're not paying those. And all that inventory that you have, everything 6 weeks on the water and all 4 weeks on the floor, take it and shove it because we're not going to take that.
Wow.
So that was fun. So millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it's crazy because in that situation, I'd never been through that. What do you do? Like, I can't call the police and be like, somebody just robbed me.
Right.
They owe me millions. What do you do? So thankfully, I have an amazing legal team, and I absolutely have to give a shout out to Warner Norcross Judd because they're the ones that single-handedly came in and really dedicated themselves to this case, to helping me through what we went through.
Just met Tom M.
Tom Manganello, yes. He's one of my favorite people on earth.
Another fellow, Sam Monaco, who was sitting here just a few weeks ago, has introduced us. Yeah.
Nice.
Great guy. And met him at Mish Auto as well. So.
Good, yeah. He's an amazing man to know. He's actually the grandfather of Mish Auto. He's the one that started Mish
kidding.
Auto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, shout out to Tom.
Yeah, he's, I love that man. So they came in and we went through we had a great judge too in Detroit. We went through, it was supposed to be injunctive relief. It should have been a 20-minute, quick in and out. And she ended up having a 2-day hearing out of it. I think I sat on the witness stand for like 6 hours. It was crazy.
She wanted to
She wanted to truly understand what was happening.
Yeah. So I don't think most people understand that about business court cases and how they're typically won or lost. It's who can explain in simplest terms while you still have the attention of all the right people.
Right.
It's not like just it's not like you see on TV.
No. Oh no. It was pretty amazing though. At the end of it, an injunctive relief, normally they don't, give, it's not a monetary award, but she made them pay us basically. She said, you can't do this. They have proved that they sent you the goods, you used the goods, there's nothing wrong with the goods. They have no fault in this. You need to pay them for it. So she awarded us what they owed us, was all of the outstanding accounts receivable, a few $1 million worth, 3 or 4 or something like that. And then she also made them buy the inventory from us, which was incredible. But
right? A judgment versus getting paid.
So we got paid. Okay. Well, we got paid. I won't even get into that story. Okay. That was a whole sordid story. It took us weeks. We had to come back in. The judge had to come in off of her vacation, threatened to put somebody in jail until they paid us. It was fun. So that allowed us to we got paid. That allowed us then to go into a restructuring phase. Okay. So, we went from, should have been 50 million in sales plus down to the next year, 3.5 million.
Wow. And how did you keep the company together? Was it just a skeleton crew type?
It was. Unfortunately, when I got that cancellation of contract, of course, right before Thanksgiving, it's coming up on the anniversary date.
Rains and pours, huh?
I had to bring in our entire organization, close to 50 people, and I laid everybody off. Everybody. And I mean, including myself. We had no money. We had zero income at this point. The best part was I had personal guarantees on everything. So had we not gotten injunctive relief, I would have been in a van down by the river eating government cheese with a tin cup, right? Wow. I would have had nothing. So, yeah, so that was fun. But I had to lay off the entire organization. Promptly went in my office. I puked in my garbage can. And then I walked in the conference room and I had my entire executive team waiting there for me. And they said, what's next?
Wow.
And I'm like, can't pay anybody. And they knew that. And they showed up to work every single day for over 6 weeks, because that's how long it took us to get injunctive relief, without pay, without knowing if they were going to get paid, to handle what was left of our business. Yep. I mean, to be out running high-lows, packaging parts, doing the things that we had people to do. They all jumped in and just made it happen. So that's the reason I'm sitting here. It's not because I did something miraculous. It's because I have this amazing team of people that supported me, that supported each other, that believed in what we were doing and kept it going.
That's amazing. What did it take to turn it around? Where'd you get the next sale?
I mean, we restructured. We restructured in 2019, and of course we had programs to launch that were already on our docket. We did lose a few programs because of the restructuring, because of what we were going through. It was too risky for some of our customers, which I get. But then of course we went through restructuring, and 20 COVID hits, so that was fun. And then we lost 3/4 of our sales. And then the chip crisis, the logistics crisis, the
this is why
labor strike last year, the hurricane. I'm like, can we just please just make it all stop?
You learn how to take punches early.
Yeah. Well, I just keep getting up. I don't know if that's smart or not. Maybe I should just stay down.
You might be concussed.
I don't know. It's been a fun time in the automotive industry. Wow. So yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Well, you want to take a breath?
I know. I'm just going to curl up in a ball and cry for 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, but okay, so now I'm going to brag about you a little bit here, too. So in the middle of all that, I remember you and I were talking on the phone, and you said, hey, I'm joining up in this international MBA, blah, blah,
well, why not?
And I'm like, okay. Don't you have other things to focus on?
I mean, when you're batshit crazy, just keep going. Why not?
Yeah. So you only know one direction in that throttle, huh?
I do. I think I have issues.
Maybe, but they're good issues.
Yeah.
They're good for things like this. You get to talk about.
I know, right?
You got interesting stories. So talk about the global executive MBA program that you did, and
that was awesome.
And how cool that was.
It was so cool. So I started in 2019, which it kind of sucked because I started pre-COVID. It was supposed to be like everything else in my life. It was supposed to be a 1.5 year long program, and I think I graduated in 4. I mean, it just fits with my undergrad, so it's fine.
So you have 30 years of schooling, basically.
Yeah, I should be a doctor twice over. It started in 2019. So the program is through Trium. It's called Trium.
Okay.
And it's a tri-degree between Paris, HEC, London School of Economics, and the Stern, NYU Stern School of Business, which was awesome in and of itself with those 3 degrees because they're so varying and what you get.
And this is not just an online.
No, God,
This
no.
is in person.
No, that was part of the appeal because I love to travel. Right? I love to network. I love to learn about new industries. Just part of that entrepreneurial spirit. I think I just really love to learn stuff. And it was supposed to be 6 modules over a 1.5 years with, I think the average cohort size is 30 to 35 people and representing several different countries.
Okay.
So I think, I don't even remember, I think out of our cohort, actually I think the cohort's 60 people and it's 30 different countries. That's what it is.
Okay.
Sorry, it's this
There's
old
no
age
test.
stuff.
I mean,
I know. So, but if anybody from there is listening, I'm going to get beat up on. Really cool experience. Yes, it is 30 different countries. Cohort of 60. Average age is in the mid-40s.
Okay.
So I was just bringing it up a little bit because I was, back then I was
back
then I was still in my upper 40s.
Upper mid.
Yeah. But it was amazing. So we had modules. We went to London, obviously for London School of Economics. We did a module in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. So did a lot of different visits with companies, which was cool. Paris, obviously, a couple times. We did a module in Dubai, and then, of course, in New York, we did a module. So,
and those are 2 weeks at a time when you're
yeah,
there?
it's 2 weeks intensive. It's pretty crazy. Wow. You have pre-work and post-work, a lot of reading, a little bit assignments, group assignments. You get different groups, which is fun, working with a lot of different type A personalities all over the world.
Sure.
Trying to coordinate.
Could everybody speak
time
English
zones.
too?
Yeah, it's an English speaking.
Okay.
It's English speaking course. But it was just such an amazing experience because I didn't do it for the education per se. You can go online and learn anything. You did it for the camaraderie, for the networking. I can literally pick up the phone and, if I want to do something in South America, I have people to call. If I want to go to Dubai and open up a business, I know exactly who I'm going to talk to. It's really cool to have that network worldwide.
Yeah.
And you end up you're almost like family with these people at the end of it because of what you go through. So.
Well, you've been in the foxhole together, right?
Seriously, those 7 a.m. wake-up calls after you might have hit the bar after class until a little too late, and you're
Because you said it was 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. I mean, these were all day. Right?
Mostly, yeah, they're all day. All day. And then you've got group projects that you're working on. The end of it, you do a capstone project, so you have a capstone group where you basically put a business plan together to start a business, and that's you present that at the end of your capstone project. So it was just a really great experience.
Very cool.
It's fun also to have 4 degrees sitting on my desk now.
There you go.
I just like looking at them. I won't ever do anything with them, but they're cool.
So what does Lucerne look like today? How many people, where are you located? Talk a little bit about that, and then let's talk about what we've got coming up in the future here, which is pretty amazing.
So I think we've probably got around 40-ish full-time employees. Don't quote me on that. We're in Auburn Hills. That's where our headquarters are. And we've still got offices in Shanghai. So we've got a whole team over there. I just actually did an acquisition in November of 22 of a machine shop, which was fun. That was my first acquisition because we're starting, obviously, to vertically integrate and start pulling some of that work back on shore. That's our goal, is for localization, be where our customers are. We have global customers. We ship to Brazil, we ship to Mexico, we ship a little bit to Europe. But we are making big moves right now, and we're onshoring, building a facility, hopefully here in Detroit, for hot aluminum forging, which is one of our largest commodities.
Great. And where will it be, in the city of Detroit, do you think?
In the city. So we've got the piece of land. We're working with a developer. Everything is moving forward on that right now. Really exciting, actually. We, under the Inflation Reduction Act, there's some tax credits that were out there, and we applied for this, what was called a 48C tax credit.
Okay.
A couple hundred companies nationwide applied for it, and we were I think there was just under 100 that were allocated, and we were one of those companies.
Great.
So we got a $7.2 million tax allocation for this
Amazing.
facility. We just applied for round 2, so hopefully we've got a little more for the expansion phases we've got coming up.
Great.
But we're creating close to 375 jobs over the next 4 years.
Wow.
In an area in Detroit that is economically depressed, really can use that financial impact. It's where the new bridge is being built, the Gordie Howe.
Yep.
We're right across, actually, from the wastewater treatment center.
Okay.
So don't come visit me in a hot day in July. It's not bad. I went there, just stood in the middle of the property just to check it out.
Double check it.
I was like, okay, I think we can make it. It's okay. So really excited about it. It's a
Wow.
super great opportunity. It'll pretty much 10x us overnight. Lots to do,
Great.
though. Lots of fun stuff between working with developers, working with investors. It is the first time that I'm reaching outside of my own pockets. So
Okay.
we're looking for equity investors, trying to finish up that, which is a whole new level of fun for me.
Okay, great. Great. Well, maybe this will give you some notoriety.
Yeah, hey, anybody's interested and they want to rebuild the American manufacturing base, now's your chance to get in from the ground up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. What else you want to talk about?
I don't know. You already put me through the ringer.
Yeah, I know. Talk about something fun. I mean, obviously
good.
that was fun to talk about your new plant. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be amazing. I mean,
I'm excited.
10xing your company is always fun. You know, the partnerships that you're working on sound like fun.
Yeah.
But so what's new in family life then for the next foreseeable future here?
Well, we're hoping that we're helping my husband find his future.
Okay.
So my kids are older,
Okay.
right? So my 19-year-old daughter, she graduated a couple years ago. She's a personal trainer working in the fitness industry. My other daughter's about to turn 16, so it's a whole new level of fun. And she's, my husband's not needed as much.
Right.
And my son's 14. So we're just kind of starting to roll up our sleeves and decide what the next phase of our lives look like.
That's great.
Funny story, my son's in Boston right now on his 8th grade trip.
Oh, really?
And my daughters are so independent, like they don't need much from us. And I was home, I think it was just a couple nights ago, and my husband's like, I'm bored. What do you want to do? Can we go? And I was like, this isn't going to work for me long term. we really need to figure out we need something for you. Because he's so lonely with my son being gone that is, just.
We have to do an episode where it's just you and Scott, because I think for
dear
people who
Lord.
don't know you guys as a couple,
Yeah.
You're one of the most fun couples ever, and
thanks.
just the dynamic that you have is very special, very unique.
I'm pretty lucky. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I would say so. You are. No, he is too.
Yeah, I'm luckier, trust me. I know what I put that man through.
Well, that's great. Well, I mean, you're doing amazing things. You're a survivor. You're a fighter through and through. And I'm so happy to call you a friend, and I'm so happy that you did this with me.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
Fun.
Mary. Great. All right, Mary Buchzeiger,
You got
aka
it.
Mary Buck from Lucerne International. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.